the good, the bad, and my face. This one right here. How you doing? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we've finally got some preliminary information around the drop rates on 9F. And the others as well, but who cares, right? Actually, they're actually a little bit important. They are important, you will want to know. So I'm going to propose to you some findings, preliminary ones, if at that, around how you best go about farming your signal data to maximize your energy savings using real-world figures, not just the vibes, okay? Also, surprise note from a change from CG that looks really horrible on surface level, but it's actually still amazing. Let's do this, baby. Let's go. Welcome back, Holotable Heroes, to another Galaxy of Heroes video with me, your bold boy Scribe. How the devil are we all doing? I'm sure you're all very well, good and dandy. So the first thing that we want to talk to about is Omega Battles. Ladies and gentlemen, this new and updated Omega Battle is flipping phenomenal, because look, we get 3 Zetas every time we do it, and I've got nearly 900 of them, which means I have too much. It also gives you 10 Omegas and 20 of the Mark III ability materials. However, the eagle-eyed of you will have noticed that the crystal cost to refresh this particular node has doubled in cost. This used to be 200 crystals. I don't believe we saw anywhere in update notes that said this was going to happen. And that's the only issue with this sort of thing. There is recurring themes at the minute of things not being communicated as to why and when. That being said, Omega Battles and refreshing for Zetas is still technically by far the best place to get Zetas. You won't get 3 Zetas for 400 crystals anywhere else. What is that? 133 crystals per Zeta. There was a time when you couldn't even buy Zetas with real cash money. They were that scarce. Now you get 3 for free a couple of times a week, I want to say, and you can refresh it for 400. So to put it in perspective, you could go into shipments, you could go to weekly, and you could get 5 for 1,250, ladies and gentlemen. So, I mean, that works out for 3. That would, what's that, 250 crystals per, right? So it's twice as expensive here, nearly twice as expensive. To get 3 from here, technically speaking, it's 750 crystals, compared to the 400 that you're paying elsewhere. So whilst this is annoying, we do wish to have better and more consistent communication from CG. Let's not lose our proverbials over it, because it's still a really great thing that we have got Zetas over here. All right, I'm glad we can all agree on that. Also, assault battles. We've been having so many assault battles recently. I have been absolutely overwhelmed with all the joy and the satisfaction that comes from having all of the... Oh, Smuggler's Run 3. I wish that artwork would get updated, because it's confusing me now. How many... you need to check. You got to be careful with this. Yeah, see, it's a good job I didn't do this sim. I would have missed out on a whole boatload of micro attenuators, because that's going to give me an extra, what, 92? Cool. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about signal data farming. In particular, ladies and gentlemen, when you're looking to try and maximize your rewards for the least amount of energy. In a recent update, CG said they have adjusted the drop rates in section 9F, in particular, for these 2 things. What can I tell you? Preliminary, the increased drop rates for incomplete signal data are quite substantial. We're having a big uptick on the amount of green data that we're getting, essentially, and the blue seems to be about the same, or maybe even a hair less than it used to be. However, it is still magnificent. It's still way better than this, and we're going to run over the nodes, run over the drop rates right now. I will say, pinch of salt, little pinch of salt, throw it over your shoulder. I think it's supposed to be your left shoulder, isn't it? I don't know, I'm not superstitious. I was born on Friday the 13th. I can't afford to be superstitious. Watch me lose like 1,000 subs for that. Okay, so shall we talk about how this actually works out? The answer is yes. Yes, we shall. Good, groovy, delicious, great. All right, we're going to start here. This is Egnard's, his own personal little data collection, where he has essentially been collecting information on what are the drop rates on Sector 8 like, what are the drop rates on Sector 9, and this new 9F in particular has been updated to include the drop rates since they've been adjusted. Okay, so there's been 2,410 sims so far at the time of this recording to try and give ourselves an effective drop rate. Now, previously, the drop rate for green signal data was about 60-ish% over here on 9F, and it's gone up by like 20%. That's pretty impressive, if you ask me. That's a big jump in drop rates. Over here, Sector 8, this, I was using historic data for this previously because we have like data from like 4 years ago, which had about 2,000 sims of each. But for the sake of arguments, I'm just going to use what Egnard's data is showing here in my little spreadsheet. That is complete pigeon math, complete finger in the air with a mild sense of scribe, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, cool. Glad we can all agree. Let's get a few things out of the way first and foremost. Maybe let's zoom in a little bit more to make it a bit easier for everybody to see. There we go. Okay. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, I'm using this under the proviso that you need to go from Relic 0 all the way up to Relic 9. In order to do that, you need 165 grey, 170 green, and 175 blue signal data. Now, we are taking the drop rates that we saw in Egnard's spreadsheet. Essentially, well, at least they were from earlier. They may have changed slightly. Okay, but this is roughly those drop rates that we were seeing on Egnard's spreadsheet. They might have moved ever so slightly, but it's not going to change materially. Okay, so in order to just farm Sector 8, if you were just looking at Sector 8 and thinking, how much energy do I need to spend in order to get a character from Relic 0 to Relic 9? That's all of this materials here. How much do I need to spend? Essentially, you need to do 121 sims of, the grey energy node. That's in Cantina Section 8. You need to do 165 of the green and 284 of the blue. And that will give you roughly, on average, based on these numbers, enough. All of this stuff, essentially, right? And it costs you a total of 9,122 energy, which is just these numbers multiplied by 16, because each energy sim costs 16, right? So that's a high level idea. Now, if we were to take all of this information, take the drop rates that we currently have for Sector 9 and see how can we do this a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier, a little bit better, okay? We can start on with Sector 9B. This is the one that will give you grey, or, the tier 1, and green signal data, right? If we were to do 130 sims, that would give us all of the grey that we need. Basically, we need 165. It should give about 166, and it will give us 75 out of the 170 that we need for green. Costs us 2,600 energy. So we still need a little bit of green, and we need a little bit of blue. Well, a lot of blue, right? So if you do another 111 sims, roughly, you'll get an extra 95 green, which is going to put you in that range of 170 green signal data that we need, and also a side helping of 54 blue. That costs us 2,220 energy. Finally, you can go back to Sector G then, because all you need is blue signal data, and if you do another 183 sims, you will get the remaining 113-ish that you need. If you check this here, you'll have 167. That's not quite right. Looks like the numbers are slightly different now, so let's just go this up to 190. No. 195. No. 196. There we go. 196. There you go. So had to recalibrate the numbers there because the numbers have moved differently from earlier. Basically, 196 extra sims of Sector 8G, where you get the blue signal data to get your last 121. That's going to put us at 175 blue signal data needed. If we add up the total energy cost, don't forget, energy cost for these is going to be 20 energy for these Sector 9 ones, and it's going to be 16 energy for Sector 8G. It works out at 8,000 energy, roughly, or 7,956, making an energy saving of 1,166. That is massive energy savings. Over 1,000 energy. If we were to look at that as a percentile, I guess, equals this divided by this. Think that, and there you go, you're saving yourself 13% of the energy, basically. That's pretty good rates, I would say. Similarly, you could try to do 9D and 9F, so you go for the grey and the blue, and then the green and the blue to see how it works out. But in my findings over here, it didn't really work out to be cheaper. It works out, oh, it does at the minute, but I don't think it's actually got enough. He's got 165, 170, 173. So I just had to redo Sector 9 a little bit. The second one for Sector 9, you could do 9D and 9F, that's going to give you greys and blues and then greens and blues, works out at roughly 129 sims of 9D. That gets you all the grey that you need and some of the blue. Then you could go to 9F, that's going to get you all the green need and most of the blue again, so that's 149 out of the 175, and then you can get your remainder from sector 8. This works out ever so slightly cheaper, but it's probably so close that it doesn't really matter. 7,933 compared to 7,956. You're pretty much exactly the same place. Doesn't matter where you farm in Sector 9, you pretty much even out over the long haul, okay? And this is quite interesting to note. Either way, no matter what, farming Sector 9 is definitely better unless you just need one type of signal data. And the truth is, you never need one type of signal data. You only need one type of signal data right now, okay? That's just the way it is. Because there's always going to be the next character, and the character after that, and the character after that. Like, until you get to a point that every single thing in your roster is like Relic 7, you're always going to need a little bit of Tier 1, a little bit of Tier 2, a little bit of Tier 3, the grey, the green, the blue, right? You'll always need some of it at some point. So over the long haul, you might as well just be farming Sector 9. I'm mostly going to be doing 9F because I mostly need to have blue signal data, and I'll use the others just to keep me propped up throughout the entire cycle, right? The next thing that I want to talk about is, okay, fair dues, what about if you want to be farming for corrupted signal data? Because technically speaking, the best way to get 15 corrupted signal data to go to Relic 10 is to get 363 fragmented, I think it is. And that gives you 15. And that's because the drop rate for this is so high. But how does that work in a Sector 9 world? I'm glad you asked. I technically asked on your behalf. You are living vicariously through my questions. Cool. So I prepared a little something on this as well. Corrupted signal data. If you want 15 corrupted signal data, which is what you need to go to Relic 10, that's why I've used that as the price point. You need 363 grey, or 272 blue, or 272 green, or 218 blue. All very interesting. So if you were to just farm from section 8, right? So just the signal drops, you could do 266 sims of the grey, and that will give you your 363 based on those drop rates that we've got, right? You can see it's going for the drop rates. Grey is like 137% or something like that. That will get you enough, right? And that is the cheapest. Oh, actually, it's not. Green is actually slightly cheaper based on this. How wild. I just want to make sure that that's looking at the right thing. C4. C4 would be here. Yeah, based on the current numbers, green is now more effective, only slightly. And this is based on Egnard's number on Sector 8, okay? And then blue is just wildly expensive. Don't ever farm blue and convert blue into corrupted signal data. It's terrible. However, if we were to look at this from a Sector 9 perspective, where we're getting multiple energy nodes, it all of a sudden makes sense to start breaking some of this down into corrupted for an energy per energy cost situation, right? Per energy cost. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to find out of the cheapest of these, what is the equivalent of energy spent getting you? Okay, so I did do 4,220 energy because that was as close as I get to here. We could change it to 4,200 energy. So that would be 210, right? 210 sims. For 210 sims, which is the same amount of energy spent as this green, which is the most effective right now, what would we get? If we did Sector 9B, which gives us greys and greens, we would essentially get 267 greys and 121 greens. If you converted both of them into corrupted signal data, you'd actually end up getting 19 instead of 15. So 9B is the most effective node you want to farm if you're going for corrupted signal data. Like, substantially more effective. Way better than just farming grey, okay? Similarly, 9D, still better, 17. The one that's bad is 9F. Don't ever farm 9F if you're looking for corrupted signal data, because it's just not good drop rates, okay? It's like the blue... I feel like if blue didn't give you 10 pieces towards your 145 that you needed for one corrupted signal data, and it instead gave you like 12. Let's see how that would work out, actually. If it gave you 12, actually, those numbers don't really pull through. But yeah, Like, it's just the drop rates just aren't very effective, unfortunately. So, I mean, that's it, guys. That's it. It does require you to actually break down your green signal data, which I'm sure a lot of people won't want to do, right? So, I mean, you could just completely discount the green and say, you know, I'm not going to do it, and then you're just going to get your 11 signal data, okay? But ultimately, you're still worse off just farming this if you want corrupted signal data, because if you're farming it just for this energy anyway, you might as well get the greens as well and convert it. It'll take you less time. Okay? So, I mean, I will once again say all of this information is preliminary based on the figures that we've seen in Egnard's spreadsheets, okay? Which is all this information here, okay? So it's based on this information here. However, what I will say is that based on the number of battles that have been done on these nodes, we can safely say that this drop rate is accurate, okay? It might go up a little bit, might go down a little bit, but it's going to be roughly correct. This one is a little bit less likely. That 1,000 battles there is enough to give a 95% confidence interval ratio, essentially to say, yeah, the drop rate is probably about 62%, give or take a couple of percentiles, if that. You know, it's going to be relatively accurate. The 80 and 190 is nowhere near accurate enough. Realistically speaking, you really do want to have at least 600-700 for a drop rate of this ratio to give us a really good, accurate way of finding is this close, okay? But so long as you take it with those pinches of salts, so long as you understand that it is based on preliminary data, it'll all be groovy. Now, the one thing that I do want to say before we disappear off here today and start, you know, because I can already see my comment section. I can see into the future with my bald eyes, all right? And the comment section are going to be filled with, I did 20 sims of 9F and I got 0 blue, so I've just gone back to farming 8G. So it's okay. That happens, guys. It does. This is why you need to have a large pool of data to reflect on, all right? Please don't let your, like, vibes for a node overrule the actual results, all right? It's like those people who thinks, I always sim in 3s and I get more stuff. And you don't. You don't. Bad. Naughty. Stop it. Okay? Just go for the overall numbers. If you want links to this spreadsheet, I'll try and remember to put it in the description. If I don't put it in the description, call me out in the comments section below. Say, "Aye, Scribs, stop being a moron." I mean, I'm probably always going to be a moron, but a lovable moron. No, I'm not going to be lovable either. Damn it!